So I've created an app. The app is based on the Django.rest framework tutorial. It has some snippets, which are basically just code snippets that you create. The only thing you really need to know about here is that the owner is a foreign key. On save, there's some steps to basically do some validation, and that the owner doesn't actually get saved there. So the serializers, have you had a look at model serializers yet? I don't know if these have been shown to you. So basically a model serializer, you know how with the way you were doing serializers before, you were doing them in this kind of really long-winded way where you have to repeat everything that was in the model? Yeah, yep. And you know how when you did Django, you could do a form where you had to specify everything? Or you could do a model form where it just picked it all up off the model. Model serializer works the same way as model form. So rather than having to specify everything, I've just gone, hey, use the model. It's all there. It's pretty much that. I won't go too crazy with what I've done. But essentially, yeah, that's the run of it. Now, if I was to open that up here and I was to go to, say, localhost 8000, it would say I'm not running it. If I was to say that we're on the server, then I ran it. I've also done a thing that is in the Django.rest framework tutorial, which is an API route. You haven't done one of these yet. It's just a way of saying, give me an index for all of my APIs. So, yep, there we go. So I've got, that's my user list. What I'm after is snippets. This is basically the run of it, right? Oh yeah, you haven't seen the web interface for Django.rest framework, have you? No. All right, well, basically, it's a way to use a website to return, it does this. So rather than returning it as JSON, it figures out that JSON, that's what it would default to giving me. But because I'm using the website, it does this HTML version. Cool. All right. Is that kind of enough? That's the objects. Oh, there's some URL views. There's actually a lot of stuff in the Django.rest framework that I was not going to use, but I ran out of time to get rid of it. I think oh God, give me a second. Let me just clean up Git. Cool. Cool. All right. If I go back here, is there a way for me to go commits, generics mixin classes? With any luck, I'd like to create a branch of object permissions. Oh, here we go. Let's do this. I want to create a branch off here and go. Cool. All right. If I reload this, I'm not running a server. Rerun that. All right. This one's probably going to look a little bit more normal because it doesn't have any of that weird stuff. We'll go with this. All right. So let's talk about Insomnia. So Insomnia is is pretty much just a web browser. SheCodes there. I'm going to maximize this one. So it's basically just a web browser. Like the way you view websites is normally you go, hey, give me the website, and it goes off and figures stuff out, right? So I can pop open a new Well, that's interesting. I don't know what caused that. If I was to say do a HTTP, so I've got a thing called HTTP or HTTPie installed, and I was to go look at, say, google.com, it's going to return me that google.com's moved, and I should look at work.google.com. It's going to return me a whole lot of stuff. There's some HTML. I think there's probably some CSS, some JavaScript in there. So it's going to go off and look at it. When you do an API call, so if I was to do my localhost 8000, I was to look at snippets, I think that's what it's called. Cool. It's going to return basically that. So this thing, your interaction is going to go off and ask the server for this resource. If you want to see this run, and feel free to like raise your hand emoji if something goes wrong. But I think if I go HTTP-B, it gives me both the request and the response. So here we go. This is what you ask, which is get snippets HTTP1. You know how we talked about get, post, those sorts of things? It's literally the word it uses is get, and then the path. It's saying it's going to accept everything, and its host is that, and I'm using a thing called HTTPie. The server says, hey, cool, 200, okay. I allow you to do get, post, head options. I also am sending this content as JSON. Just says a lot of stuff. And then, bang, here's the content. Now, HTTPie does some nice formatting on that. I could also use a thing called curl to do the exact same sort of web browser call, but it will do it in a really ugly way. So same thing, just ugly. So rather than ugly, someone decided to build a thing called Postman to make this like a nice GUI for this. Postman's okay, but I find it kind of horrid. So Insomnia comes along. Insomnia is essentially someone's browser that does these requests. So if I go back and I go get snippets and I hit send, and we look at this timeline, you'll see that this is doing the exact same stuff. Get snippets, HTTP1, localhost, Insomnia this time, accept everything. And the server says, hey, cool, 100% okay, here's a 200. I allow you to do get post options, and here's some content. And then the content looks like this. You could put it in raw, which just shows you what it looks like regularly, but by default, we want a nice pretty. So getting started, that's what it's doing. I've already done a couple of tricky things here that I was going to clean up, so maybe I should clean this up. So HTTP localhost 8000 snippets. All right, there we go. Cool. So everyone makes sense?
Yes.
You've got a frozen image, so I'm just going to assume.
I'm not drinking water anymore. Everything makes sense.
All right. Green tick emojis if you follow me. I'm just going to assume everyone's following. Oh, thumbs up. That's even better. Thumbs ups. Good, good, good. Yep. All right. We're happy. So essentially that's it. But there's a lot of fun, tricky things. I think so the way you were kind of given this example is to, you'd make your new request and you'd say this like, get all snippets. And then you'd make it a get. And you'd go, this is HTTP 127.0.0.1 8000 / snippets n /. And that would do its job, right? So I guess for starters, maybe while we've got to this point, are there any questions people have about this amount of the content. Like it's a web browser that takes what look like REST calls, and that's why it's called Insomnia, because no rest. And it takes REST calls, and it's just a pretty way to write them and read them. Does anyone have any questions, I guess, on that topic before I start getting into more advanced things? All right.
I have a question about the local host. I don't think it's specifically about Insomnia. It's more about the local host.
Yep.
You know that when we were doing the other project for Django, we were using the same local host. So I guess that for all the projects that you run on your own computer, you use the same local host.
So local host means this computer.
So the only reason why Insomnia is connecting the local host snippets to this particular information and not our previous Django project, it's because we are running it at the moment.
Yeah, so if I run that command there, which is asking for localhost snippets Ben, and I go look at my terminal, which is here, we should see localhost snippets Ben was a get command here. So get snippets Ben 404, because it's not found, doesn't know what it is. That's why this one's picking up, because we're running the server. If I stop running the server, and this will happen to you all the time, and we try and get that, we get a different error, which is couldn't connect to server's offline. So your local host is your computer. The port is the TCP port that you're using to communicate on. So you only get one thing that can use one of these numbers at a time. By default, Django uses 8,000. If I ran this guy, run server here, and then I went over to this directory and I went manage run server here, it'll tell me, it'll complain. If I was to run it, I didn't have my virtual environment active. That's what that was. It'll tell me that it can't do it because 8,000 is already in use.
Can you run multiple hosts at the same time? Because I've seen that some people on YouTube use like a local host 9,000.
Yeah, so you can add, you can do a thing called, where is it? So run server has a way of doing a binding or port binding. And I'm trying to find, is it hiding underneath all your faces, maybe over this side of the screen? Let's have a look. Anyway, maybe it's just 0.0.0.0.08001, so 8001. If you put 000 in there, it defaults to listening to everything, so other people's computers on the same network can talk to you. But you probably want 127.0.0.1, which means your computer. So now I've got 8,000 running here, 8,001 running there. If I was to open a new window, actually, no, I'm gonna, this is gonna get tricky because we have 3 of these. All right, so we've got, this is 8,001, I'm gonna put it over there. This is 8,000, I'm gonna put it here. And then I'm gonna find the other window, this guy, I'll put it down here. And we're going to run HTTP 8,000 snippets, and you'll see 8,000 did the thing. And then I'm going to go 8,001 snippets, and you'll see over here, it did the thing. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That one complained. Then we'll go over here. 8,000. So you can't run more than one thing on the same port, but you can run lots of ports.
Multiple ports. Like, yeah. Okay.
Some numbers, like 64,000 or something of them. So yeah, probably not going to worry when you get to doing stuff with React. You'll find that you'll use port 3000. I think React likes to use. So you'll see that the port numbers will change. Cool, makes sense?
Yeah.
Question. Right, so are we ready for some how to do Insomnia a bit better? All right, some more advanced stuff. All right, so the first thing that I would do is I would look at the fact that I'm writing all of these commands. New request. I'm going to call this like create snippet, post. I'm going to make some JSON body here. And it's going to be HTTP local. Well, let's call it 127.0.0.1 8000. And then I'm going to go, what was it? Snippets. And I'm going to say send. It's going to say authentication. Oh, bugger. I still have to authenticate. Anyway, there you go. All right, get. I'll do another get. This one will be like, I'll rename it. I think I can rename. How do I rename? Settings. Create get a snippet. Cool. Done. So get, it's now a get query, snippets 1. And then we're like, cool, that got the first one, right? Yeah, we're good. And then we go like, oh, maybe I want to duplicate that. I want to get a snippet. Oh, so duplicate's a thing. You can just duplicate ones you've already written if they're basically the same. I tend to only ever duplicate. I don't really write them from scratch. Get a snippet, but different. And then I'm going to make that, oh, okay, instead of 1, I'm going to get 2. And that, you know, is a fair bit of work. So what you can do with Insomnia is you've got this wonderful thing called environments. So you can go to a manage environment and you can set up a set of rules. So I've got this default thing called the base URL, which is a way of just specifying values. You could have, you could do this differently. You could have like base, it has to be in JSON format. So base URL is localhost. What do we call it? It was HTTP 127.0.0.1 8000. And that's what our local host is, right? Yep, got some nods. But let's just go with that because for the time being, that makes sense. So I want to deactivate you. How do I deactivate you? I'll do that later. Base URL, blah. So we can do this thing where, no environment, that's what I want. This bit here, we've just called base URL. So what we could do in, what we can do with Insomnia is we can go underscore dot, which is a fancy way of shortcutting, and we can use base URL. And I go send, and it should freaking work. What went wrong? Oh, my base URL is formatted wrong. Base URL, this backslash at the end, I don't need that. All right, try that again. Cool. So it works in exactly the same way. So base URL now evaluates to being the host name. So we'll go over here and have a look. We're still asking for 127.0.0.1 8000, or it's here, snippets 2. So we've changed base URL to be just the thing we want. Get a snippet now, we can go here and we can change that to base URL. So this dot underscore dot thing is actually quite powerful. And that is exactly the same. Get all snippets again. This one says localhost, but it's the same thing. Whoops. I wanted one that didn't have an error. All right, we have one without an error. Let me try and do this without causing an error. Underscore dot base URL. Send. Hey, look, exactly the same thing, right? That to me is easier to write than the whole localhost thing. One of the other things I do is I tend to do the path of the thing. Let me get rid of this. Just shrink that down. The path of the thing rather than giving it a name. I don't find the name very useful. So for me, I would go new request, and I know that the endpoint I'm trying to use is snippets. So I do that, create. So I've got get snippets now. I'm like, okay, cool, underscore dot, base URL, snippets, send. Cool, that was pretty quick. And then I go, I want to do a new request. I want to do /snippets1. And then base URL, snippets1. That's pretty fun. But what if you don't want it always to, oh, we've got a question. Yes, Laura?
You know that before you couldn't do a post request because you need to be authenticated?
Yeah.
Was it because in your code you put that you need to be logged in to do stuff?
Yeah.
How do you go around that in Insomnia?
Well, that's a really good question. I was about to cover that. Maybe we'll cover that right now. So we've got snippets. We are going to do another thing. All right, so let's do a create. So we're going to call this snippets, same as the last one, but rather than get, we're going to do a post. And our body is going to be a JSON body because we're sending JSON content. Create. Cool. Now I've got a little JSON body. Here's one I prepared earlier. Let me just copy that, put that in there. Paste. I might change this from print hello world to import this. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to call this Zen of Python. Cool. Now, what are we doing? We're not doing, we're going to do underscore dot base URL, and we're going to go snippets, and we're going to send. And we're going to get this authentication credentials were not provided. So one of the things you can do with Insomnia, and this is one of the powerful things you can do, is you can go, cool, well, let's add some authentication. So here's my basic authentication. I'm going to say that my name is Ben or Ben Dog. Ooh, what did I make it? Let's have a quick look.
Do you need to be a super user or it can be any user?
I could be any user, but I recently, very, very recently, just changed. I'm just gonna have to have a look what the password was. Apparently it looks like it's Ben Dog, so let's go with that. Ben Dog, password. Hey, look at that. All right, so the owner's done. So now if we look at our header information, you'll see actually timeline information. You'll see some more stuff happened here. So we've added some basic authentication. So we've got post snippets, HTTP1. That's the host we're using. Our user agent's normal, content type. Because we're sending something now, we have to tell it what content it is. And we've gone, hey, basic authentication, here's some encrypted string. That encrypted string is effectively my username and my password mushed together into one thing. The server knows how to deal with that. We don't need to worry. And then that's the content. And it says, cool, yeah, I did that. If we go back to snippets and I press send now, we'll see that there should be a new one down the bottom, Zen of Python, Bendog. Yep. But what if you want to specify who the user is in a way that makes more sense? So like, oh, cool, let's go manage environments. And we've got all this stuff, right? Oh, wait, all this stuff here. What if I wanted to have like my username is Dog and my password is that long thing? I'll put a little comma at the end of that. Oh, I was meant to return that to what it was before. I wonder if I can undo like heaps of stuff. Give me a second. Bugger, can't go that far back. All right, we'll just do this. Cool. I'll dig it out of a different one. All right, so now this is now a constant. So I can go underscore dot username. And then with the password, I can go underscore dot pass. That should pick it up. There we go. And I can send, and it's created another one. So if I go back to get snippets, I should see 2 import thises, which we now have. Does that make sense? So we're basically just doing the same thing, but rather than like writing in hard coding each time what it is, we're going to use these magical environment variables. Sweet. So we've got this local setting on, which is interesting. That's something I'm going to talk to you about. I just need to fix my base environment because I made a bit of a mess out of this. Maybe I'll copy that into local. What have I got? Scheme, host, base path. Can someone remember that for me? What was it? Host? Host. And then base path. That looks about right. Let's see if it works. Send. Seems to work. I now have multiple, even more Zen of Pythons. That's good. Zen of Python's important. So that's authentication. We've now got authentication figured out. We can now delete some things. So I just created a bunch of Zen of Python stuff that I probably don't want. I've got 8, 9, 10. Actually, let's go back here. You know how we're doing get snippet? And we've gone, cool, like this is getting our 1 snippet. But now we've got a hard-coded value 1 up there, which is a little bit annoying. What we can also do here is we can go, off the top of my head, I think it's command space. Nope, that's not the right one. Is it control space? Yes, it's control space. Cool. So I can put in here prompt. And this will ask the user for some input. And this is going to be the snippet primary key, snippet primary key. Default value is going to be 1. So we can define some stuff and hit done. So now when I run this command, it's going to send 1. Cool. Each time I run it, it's going to ask me for which one I want to look at. 10. Make sense? So we've got a little bit more of an advanced piece of tool there. If I was to want to delete this thing, well, I've now got this going. It doesn't have any authentication. We probably want to put some auth on it. Let's go _.username. And then in here, _.password. And send 10. Looks good. All right, happy? Getting it? All right, well, now we've got that. We can go, let's change it up. Snippet 1. Oh, we're going to end in 10 minutes. Have I been going that long? All right, 10 minutes. I'm going to try and be quick. All right, say we want to do a put, which is how you do a change, right? So we're going to do a put. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to give myself a JSON body. We're going to say Zen. We're going to say, what's something that's fun to import? Get me some JSON. Import JSON. Python friendly, and I'm going to submit. Which one are we changing? How many did I make? Like 8? 8 was one of them. Boom. All right. I've just changed 8. And if I go to my get all snippets, I'm just going to put that up the top because to me that makes sense. Send. Number 8 here has changed to get me some JSON because we've now made this a put. A put changes an existing one. Now, again, duplicate this. I'm going to change this one to a delete. Delete doesn't need any of this body because it doesn't send anything. No body. Just get rid of the body. Authentication's still there. Theoretically, I'm pretty sure that this will give me an error if I'm logged in as Ben and I try and delete something that the admin user created. Yeah, here we go. You don't have permission to serve that. Cool. But I do remember making 10 a really terrible duplicate. So 10, 204, it's deleted it. If I go back to my get snippets, 10 should be missing. And it is. So we're good. Now, how about you, what have we got? So say this delete we just ran. And I go duplicate that. And I want to try and delete that as the admin user. You can actually do this fun thing with folders. So I don't know if you've seen these, but you can go like new folder. So your folder can have an environment. So here in this particular world, I've got this environment happening where my username is BenDog and my password's that horrible long thing, right? But in here, in this user admin folder, I can have an environment here where I set up a different user. And because I'm using that wildcard system of like what the authentication is, right? So if I go down to this delete, we're using this username password, it's going to pick up and so it's telling me with auth, because with auth is the folder, with auth admin, user admin. So it's picking up admin as the value and that as the value for that. Does with auth have environment? Okay, give me a second, I'll get rid of this. Oh, I think it needs to have something. There we go. With auth, user admin. Yeah, cool, that one's got it. So this is now going to tell me what I'm expecting it to have, which is that user:admin is the folder, and it's giving me the value of that. So the folder will override the environment, which will override the base. So whichever one's the closest is the one it'll use. When I tried to delete, let me have a look. So we'll go to get snippet. Let me pick one that I picked. What did I try and do? It was an admin one that's terrible. Admin 3. Let's try and delete admin 3. So if I was, this is Ben, the user Ben, I try and delete 3, it's going to tell me it's not going to work. If I go down here and do the exact same one, because this is a duplicate, and go 3, it'll tell me it does. Or it'll tell me my password's invalid. That's interesting. Oh, it might be because I changed the admin password. Oh God, did I? Which one did it use? Let's have a look. Basic, username, admin, password. Swear that's it. All right. It's not for this one. Give me 1 sec. I'll put that back. All right. There's a reason for this. That's because I foolishly have not reset the password on my local environment. All right, that should have worked. I'll show you it working in 1 second. All right, so we've got all of these things. Say now we have a Heroku environment. So we can just click here and go change this to Heroku. So if I go to my manage, Heroku is using HTTPS. So local was HTTP. Get rid of this username password here. Yeah, this local was using HTTP. Actually, give me that back. I'm going to put that password as the default base. So annoying the way it does that. There we go. That can be my base password I'm going to use for everything. That's there. All right, locals HTTP localhost 8000. Yep. And Heroku is now HTTPS, and this is my Heroku domain. Here, I've set Heroku as being my environment. I can go get snippets. This should hopefully work. It's taking a while. I've only got 4 minutes. Hurry up. Cool. There's absolutely nothing there. Let's post some snippets. All right. This is logged in as Bendog. This is the thing, Xenopython, bang. Cool. We created something. Let's have a look. Is it there? Yes, it is. All right. So now say I want to use, we did this basic auth that way, this snippet. I want to use this particular one. I want to drag that into this user admin. I'm going to post it again. Cool. That happened. ID 2. But now the owner's admin. We go back to our get. We have an admin that created it and a Bendog that created it. Does that make sense? Because in this folder, our basic username is admin and our basic password is that password. So because I've used a wildcard, I can drag queries around and get different responses for them. So, you know, I don't actually have to duplicate them. Like if I got rid of this one down here, oh, that's not wanted. I wanted to delete. Click to confirm. I can drag this delete snippet down here. I can try and delete it, send. It's going to say, if I do 3, it's going to give me an error. That's going to be fun. Let's have a look at it. Yep, 3 not found. 2, let's delete 2. Cool, 204. I go back, have a look. Cool, it's gone. That's pretty cool. You can also, in doing this, set up like values from other queries. So say I wanted to duplicate this, we're going to snippet this prompt here. Rather than getting a prompt, you can actually look up, pull data from a response. So I'm going to go, cool, I've got a response. I'm going to use this get snippets, the first one. I'm going to say that I want to, how do I do it? I think it's like $.id or like, or first. All right. This is going to get the first thing. And I might rename this to snippet first. Cool. Let me just create a few more of these. All right, so we've got a few. Let's have a look. We've got, what have we got? 1, 3, 4, 5. Now this first here, whenever it runs, it's going to go and get the first element from this. So whichever one the first one here is, it's going to get the ID and use that. So it's gone and done something. Let's have a look. 3, 4, 3. All right, 3, 4, 5. Yep, cool. 3 is now the first one. I run this again. Let's have a look. It's deleted 4. This is really useful when you've got like a login and you need to log in with a user to get a key, and that key then you use to do all your other queries. If you use this, you can then pull the query response from the login and yeah, make that happen. Cool. I think we're about to finish because it's out of time. But if there's any questions, I will answer them in the channel, unless you're really quick.
Thanks, Ben.
No questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Was that
Thanks,
cool?
Ben. Lots of food for thoughts.
Yeah, it's pretty, I went